Well, we have some breaking news coming your way, some big news involving New York and specifically the New York Jets. Let's head over to talkSPORT.com writer, reporter Brian T. Smith.
This is major. This is massive. What a disaster it was in London at Tottenham for the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers didn't just throw 3 picks and throw away a victory, but to fire your head coach after 5 games when you were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, that says it all for the New York Jets. That says it all for Jets fans. This is major. This was not supposed to happen. This shows that Aaron Rodgers won. Aaron Rodgers is not winning on the field. Aaron Rodgers is no longer one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he seems like he's closer to retirement than winning a Super Bowl anymore. But for Robert Saleh to be fired just 5 games into a season after you lose Aaron Rodgers for the season, and the Jets were disappointing last year, they were disappointing again. I mentioned this on our talkSPORT Rundown show, that London is often a proving ground, and teams and owners either come here and they win and they get some momentum, which we saw with Jacksonville last year. They won 2 games. Or it becomes a reckoning. You get on that plane, you fly back, you cross the ocean, and you realize that things just are not working out, and now's the time to make the perfect move. The New York Jets firing Robert Saleh after 5 games is absolutely stunning, except for the fact that we could see this coming. It clearly was not working between Rodgers and his head coach, and the Jets chose Rodgers over somebody that they could replace at any second, and that's what they did today.
Yeah, this is a stunning development. And in terms of the New York Jets camp and the feeling within the Jets, I know that many people are stunned by this, maybe the timing more than actually the decision itself. 5 games into the season, Woody Johnson has never fired a head coach during the season. So for the next couple of days where many Jets fans were expecting the news of Davante Adams and his trade, that was going to be the big breaking news that was going to come. I think many see this development as is incredibly shocking, Brian.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? And that's a great point, right? Last week, going into the Tottenham game, there was this feeling in the NFL media, among fans, that Davante Adams had his pick. He was going to get traded by the Raiders. That could happen at any second. But there was this momentum building for the Jets because of his past relationship with the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers was asked about it. He played it down the middle, which you have to in that situation. And basically said, hey, good player. I can't really comment about it, but everyone knew that Aaron Rodgers would love to play with Davante Adams again. That's not even on the table right now. The New York Jets clearly have bigger issues, and it's happening in a division that is a winnable division. Buffalo is off right now. Miami loses Tua potentially for the season, maybe for his career. There's nobody. The Patriots are really down. There's nobody who's great in the AFC East right now. And the New York Jets have completely blown this opportunity to the point that they're having to admit to the NFL, admit to their fans, admit to everybody who follows this league, they have the wrong head coach. And they did it just 5 games into the season. I go back to Robert Saleh was the head coaching candidate out of anybody when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. He was a brilliant defensive coordinator. Players loved him. He was fiery, right? You know this very well. You're a Jets fan. What has happened so quickly that he can't even make it through 5 games and he is the first head coach fired? They clearly had issues in that building, and it clearly was not working between your superstar quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, that you had to have, but now you don't have to have Robert Saleh anymore.
Well, I think Robert Saleh got off the hook last year, in all honesty, Brian. I think the fact that Rodgers went down, in that first game against Buffalo, I think, if anything, that saved his job because the seats were very hot for Robert Saleh in terms of his record. I mean, his record right now, 20 wins, 36 losses, in terms of this is his first head coaching role. And I don't think he's shown enough, in all honesty, to warrant that position still. Now, I mentioned the timing. The timing's very strange, and maybe that points to a real breakdown in the relationship. And usually when I've spoken to Jets players, and I was at the media day in London ahead of that Vikings game on Friday, everyone usually talks about what Robert Saleh brings in terms of being very close to the players, really bringing confidence. I spoke to Javon Kinlaw recently. He said how he'd instilled confidence in him, their relationship in San Francisco. But I just wonder whether Robert Saleh's lost a bit of that energy. And it was really interesting after the defeat against Minnesota, hearing some of the players, and there was a lot of frustration last year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And hearing Quincy Williams come out after the defeat against the Vikings, and basically there was murmurings of that frustration growing in terms of him saying people have got to start taking accountability. And one thing that Aaron Rodgers has always done, and people have always mentioned about Aaron Rodgers, is taking accountability. And I read into that that's a shot at the coaching staff, that the coaching staff haven't been good enough and the players are starting to lose faith. And that's where I think Robert Saleh, as a head coach, you've got Jeff Ulbrich as the defensive coordinator. Players seem to absolutely love him. Defense have been phenomenal the last couple of years. And then you've got, obviously, the offensive side of the ball, which has not been very good and not pleasant to watch, let's put it that way. But Nathaniel Hackett has that relationship with Aaron Rodgers. So if you're not a play caller, what does Robert Saleh bring? And I think players have potentially grown tired of it. And I think it'll be really interesting to see, especially coming up against Buffalo next week on Monday Night Football, what a game that's going to be, especially with the pressure, like you say, both teams going for the AFC East with that game to be number one. But now you've got Jeff Ulbrich stepping in as the interim head coach. And it'll be interesting to see whether we see a bit more energy, a bit more pizzazz from the players, a bit more juice, because they feel like a weight has been taken off them. I don't know. I just think this decision was always coming, Brian, in all honesty. And I'm so sick and tired, genuinely. I'm so sick and tired of every day there seems to be something new about the New York Jets. Last year, it was Hard Knocks, and there was always going to be that energy. There was always going to be that talk and Aaron Rodgers coming in. But there's always something seems to happen. And then this season, where they didn't have Hard Knocks, it felt like they were going into the season a bit quieter. It's just ridiculous to me that this decision's been made now. Something must have happened. I don't know what.
You sound like every Jets fan for the last 20 or 30 years. And the irony of this, that talkSPORT asked Robert Saleh during the pregame press conference about pressure. And he sounded a little confident and cocky. He's like, well, I'm in New York. You know, we're in New York. We're used to pressure. And what happens if you don't perform? You get fired. He got fired.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what happens. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to do your job. And the Jets fan base have grown tired of Robert Saleh, let's put it that way. And a lot of the talk already within the first 5 games is who is going to be the head coach next season and what already is going to be the plan for the offseason. The timing of this is very shocking. But I'm really excited to see what Jeff Ulbrich does as a head coach. I spoke to linebacker Jamien Sherwood on Friday for the New York Jets. And I asked him, by chance, really, Jeff Ulbrich is somebody who'd been a head coach at the Senior Bowl in the offseason. A lot of people touting him and what he'd been able to do for this defense as a potential head coach going down the line. He said, what the big thing that he said really was, Jeff Ulbrich, what he instills is almost a family feel on that defense. Everybody playing for each other. That's what they want to achieve. And he said some really nice words and said, I have no doubt that if Coach Ulbrich wanted to become a head coach, he could absolutely do that. Now, when I asked him that question, I didn't expect we would be talking about it only a couple of days later that it actually happened.